Well, the first
Well,
six.
manning this thing is crazy because I got to do the transition, and then I got to play the music,
Yep.
and then I got to make sure everything's on screen, and then I got to pull up our faces, but not yet because the music's still playing. You know.
And Evan could care less. He's looking at the map from Nintendo World.
Yes. Just reacquainting myself with some of the information.
He's trying to
There's
bring
a lot
up
to print
trying to bring up some memories. And hello, and welcome to Pixel Pints. We are the only global gaming podcast where we talk about two great things, which is great beer and video games. I am your host, Mitch, for this weekend, and to bring you around and hang out and talk to these amazing people, I am your host, Mitch, and I am joined by Burkoff in Viva Las Vegas, where the Bears just beat them last week.
Yeah, that was quite sad.
I did hear
I
from.
don't really care about football, so
I did hear from the coach though, because we talked about this. I was like, I wonder how many Bears fans. Because if people don't know, Las Vegas is a really cheap place to travel to. So I was curious on how away teams would travel to their home games. And apparently they were screaming the Bears fight song, and the Bears said themselves that it felt like a home game. There was more Bears noise than Raiders noise.
maybe. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I caught some stuff after that, which was the apparently the coach has some issues, and now we no longer have a coach.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, just a couple issues.
Yeah, just a couple of just some good old racism, homophobia, sexism. The gambit. He runs the gambit.
It's so weird for the local news here to cover that stuff, just because it's just not. It hasn't been a thing except for the last few years. So to see that stuff show up in the review journal, I'm like, what the fuck is going on?
Well, you want to know the crazy part, Burkoff, is that this coach not only said racist things, he said homophobic things, and he has the only openly gay football player on that team.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
He's the only active football player that has ever came out as gay. One other football player came out as gay right before he got drafted, and he only made the practice squad. I don't think he actually started an NFL game. And so that's even crazier. So that's why I think they were just like, this is not going to cut it. Because he just
he resigned less than 24 hours later. The first thing came out, and then the next day before the end of the day, he had resigned. And when they said the other stuff had come out.
Yeah, because people got to see the second wave of emails after the first one.
Yeah, and I was like, I don't blame him. I wouldn't want to go through that shit in public either. Just, so. But
besides that, how's your day? Weekend?
Not too bad. I don't have any special beers with me tonight, but I did go out last night.
Not yet. We're not at the beer section.
I know we're not. I'm just saying. But did go out with the wife last night. So.
That sounds like fun. All right. Yeah. Well, we have from across continents, where the rising sun, but it's setting because it's dark here in LA, so it's setting by you. So therefore, it is Japan. Hello, Evan Pietrowski. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I very happy today. I had a lovely burrito. That's from one of the only places that does burritos right in Kyoto, called K Pasa. And it's kind of like a California.
People don't know that's
California style. The logo is perfect too. It looks like the Saved by the Bell, very 90s. It's got a triangle with the font. It's great. But I guess the guy who started it, they have 2 locations now. He trained in California somewhere. I don't know, San Jose or somewhere. It's very Californian style Mexican food. And it's hard to get good Mexican food in Japan. It is one of the... We've talked about this before. It's one of the kinds of food that they just cannot emulate very well, and this guy nailed it. So I had a nice pulled pork bean burrito. It was so good. The sauce they make, the homemade sauce, just put on these giant bottles on the table. Just it was so good. So yeah, I'm very happy.
I just find it funny because
And,
you're like touching your stomach, like, ooh, that was good.
I'm still thinking about that burrito. I actually don't really want to talk about video games. I just want to daydream about this fucking burrito that I ate. Oops, that was over 30 seconds, right?
Yeah.
We're
Yeah, I
clear.
think so.
3
Yeah,
minutes.
yeah, you're good.
Sorry.
You're good. You're
Okay.
good. You made the threshold.
So you're wondering why I'm wearing a mask, and before the show, Matt joked that if I were to take it off, what would be under it?
You didn't do the Mario bear, did you? Or the Mario
So
mustache? or
I'm
whatever?
Nah, 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 nah. Oh, my god.
I'm priming it for Halloween, but I did it a bit too
Okay.
early,
Okay.
and I didn't. I'm. It's going kind of full 70s Hulk Hogan.
Yeah,
here, 'cause
and it
it's
doesn't
curling down.
look quite even either. Looks a little uneven.
No. So the funny thing is, I got to wear a mask basically 24/7 outside the house. So at work, no one sees it anyway. So I'm just gonna wait till it grows out a bit and then see what I can do with these sides here. I don't have the best trimmer, so yeah, I'm doing okay. And it's time for the oldest rivalry in the NFL to rack up another game and keep that oldest rivalry going. Green Bay versus
a mere 9 hours
Chicago.
and 45 minutes away from kickoff.
Yeah, I'm excited, but always nervous because regardless of how good either the Bears or the Packers are doing in a specific season, these two teams know each other so well that it really is any given Sunday with these two teams more so than others. And
with your kicker
it'll be
missing
going on while
5
I'm at
field
work.
goals.
Oh God. Hey, it's how you finish. That's what counts. But yeah, I'm doing fine. I have to completely turn off all social media tomorrow. And I got to watch the game when I get home from work. It's during the day when I'm at work. So every now and then I'll flip through Twitter, and even though I have words blocked, something will pop up. I'm like, damn it! I found out the score of the game. But yeah,
Where are they playing? Are they playing at Lambeau or
At Soldier Field in Chicago.
Chicago.
Oh, all right, okay.
Yeah.
Yep. And actually, for history, we like to give you facts and information. Here's a fun fact for everybody. If I know we're a gaming podcast, but we're going to talk football for a quick second. The Green Bay Packers have never worn their staple green jerseys to Soldier Field ever in the history of their rivalry, and this week they will, because the Bears are doing the white throwback jerseys. So therefore, Green Bay will wear their staple green for the first time in Soldier Field.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's interesting.
Yeah.
So it'll be a fascinating.
Doom, doom, doom. Oh, Pack, go! Mitch's favorite song. Doom, 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 doom. It's I hate that bass line. It's so fucking.
It's so
cheesy.
annoying.
Anyways.
It's Wisconsin cheese at its finest.
It's bad. It might as well be a polka song. Like, just change it up a little bit. But yeah, excited for the game. Everything's okay.
Anyways, back to
Looking
what we
forward to
are. We talk
talking
about
about games.
great beer and video games. If you want to follow us, we are at Pixel Pints. If you want to follow us on Twitter, we are at Pixel_Pints. Or if you want to follow us on Instagram, we're at Pixel Pints Pod. We stream every single weekend here on twitch.tv/pixelpints. So if you follow us on Twitter, you'll see when we stream. Because we, as you can see, go multiple time zones, we have really random times on when we're going to stream for the week. So keep on our Twitter, and then you can see. And then if you miss it, that's fine. You can check out our archive here on Twitch, or you can check out the archive on YouTube. Just go and find Pixel Pints, or you can go to any streaming podcast service that you listen to. I always call streaming service. We're not a streaming service. We're a podcast service. Go to any podcasting service you can find, and we are there. And just search for Pixel Pints. Look for the green mug, and you are good to go, gentlemen. Because it is not early in the morning for any of us, we all have beers.
We do.
I wish I had
It's
the clapping like
the rarity.
sound.
Yeah. Gotta get your stream deck set up.
I know.
Get those inputs.
Jesus, right?
Already.
Oh man.
The
I'll start.
soundboard.
I'll have to pull up like
Soundboard.
famous like video game speeches or something of like words like hiya. It's just like put it there. Okay, so I'm gonna let you pick from these two gentlemen because if you guys, I don't know if you were there when I did the beer here in California. It was called Golden Road Brewery, and it was basically I was like, oh yeah, this reminds me of the mango and fruit carts that you find all around LA. And then
I remember that one.
Yeah,
so like super mango. Easier.
Yeah, so I saw them at the grocery store again, but this time I found a variety pack of additional beers they had. And since I liked their first one, I was like, okay, let me look at what else they have. So I bought their variety pack because I still liked the wheat beer they had. So I'm going to let you guys pick which one I should have. And if I have time, I'll just drink both. But so this one is the Melon Cart. So I'm going to read this really quick where is it? Oh, it's on the backside. Cool. So it's the Melon Cart. They're all still inspired by the fruit carts you find here in LA. So it's a watermelon wheat ale with notes of honeydew and cantaloupe.
Interesting.
Let's see if they...
Okay, so it's got a red background, but they're not going for watermelon. Which is probably a good idea.
No, it's a watermelon wheat ale.
Oh, is that what you said? With notes of honeydew and cantaloupe, sorry.
Correct.
Okay,
Yep.
Gotcha.
And then this one's at 4%. And then the other one is a pineapple cart.
Wow, they're really sticking to this
the cart theme, right?
Theme here, yeah.
Sorry, I have to really look at this one closely because it's white on green. Horrible color combination, guys. Don't you guys don't know contrast? Like the color wheel? Like these are two colors you don't put next to each other. Okay, so pineapple wheat ale.
Not that it matters too much, but the cans aren't
the
most amazing artwork, but
no, the art's not bad. This one I like actually more than the other ones so far. So this one's pineapple wheat ale with blood orange and strawberries.
I'd go with that one, personally.
I mean,
I'd go with the pineapple one.
Screw it. I'll drink both eventually. So let's just go that one first. Good call, Parka.
What's
mix them both together.
What's the what's the ABV on the pineapple?
On the pineapple. While I'm checking, why don't you take a guess?
5.2.
Evan, what do you think?
Or maybe I'll give it. Well, it is. You said it was 4.5.
It's just a 4, like the other
really?
one.
Just
they're
4.0?
both 4.0s. You know, they got a perfect GPA. Don't knock on them now.
Those are actual real session beers, I would assume.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hey, I have a proper second beer.
All right, here we go. Let's get that. You know, that great. Ooh. All right, let's not do this over the keyboard.
Probably not a good idea.
Well, I got to do this where the camera is. So, oh my gosh. Coordination, fellas.
You can kind of... That looks like it's over the keyboard.
Nope, it's not. We're safe. Oh, and I got a good camera angle. I can see it. Oh, that's awesome. Look at that, poor gentleman. Oh. That's a good pour. That's not an Evan pour.
A decent amount of head.
Yeah.
Looks pretty decently carbonated.
Okay. It kind of just smells like all the other beers. You just got that wheat smell. I don't smell the fruit.
But can you taste the fruit?
That's interesting. That's usually
Oh, yeah. You can taste
kind
the
of
fruit.
tropical.
Okay.
Usually that's more in the aroma, but...
I mean, I
it's a
I
wheat beer,
guess
though.
thinking
It's
about
not
it now,
IPA.
I can smell the orange. I can smell the blood orange from it. I don't smell the strawberry, but I taste the strawberry and the pineapple more than I taste the orange, but I can smell the orange more. It's actually, it's nothing. It's not like a beer where it's like you're gonna get a first flavor, then it follows by another one, and then it has a back taste flavor. They all are kind of mixed together and just thrown on you. So it's like an explosion of flavor, and you have to organize of like, what am I tasting? But you can taste
Right.
each one
Is it a good
individually.
balance
I like it.
between the wheat and the okay?
I mean, I guess you would say you get the initial taste of the wheat, and then you get all the fruit flavor. And the combination seems to work pretty well. None is overpowering.
I've noticed that the beers that you do like that you've brought on are wheat. So you probably just enjoy wheat beers in general.
I mean, yeah, I'm not a. I mean, and I'm not the best beer connoisseur of all the people on the podcast here. I'm more for the video games. But anyway, but wouldn't you say like the wheat beers are lighter anyway?
They can be. I mean, I've drank some pretty hefty wheat beers.
I guess I prefer lighter. So like this is not, the heavier it is, the more I actually dislike it compared to other beers. Like
Okay.
I don't like heavy, like, oh man, that's a meal beer.
Right.
Like I don't need my dinner in my beer. This can just be like an embouchure, the what do you call it, it's the thing that you taste before the appetizer that's like super light. What do you call it? Fancy word, whatever. Anyways, Evan, what do you have? This is good. I'm gonna say yes. So if you're in LA, drink this beer. It's good.
You should look into, if you're interested, to see if they sell Three Floyds Brewing from Indiana. Their beer called Gumball Head.
Whoa.
Very, very memorable label. It's a cat with a black eye and a cigarette.
You'll have to
he's got a
send
cigarette
it
kinda
send it
hanging
to
out
me
of his
on
mouth.
Discord, and then I'll see if they have it.
I'm not the biggest fan of wheat beers, wheat ales, but I love Gumball Head. I really miss it. That's one beer that I wish I could get here, and you can't get Three Floyds. I think they're too small, unless they got bought out by someone, like, and then, which does happen. Like Goose
Right.
Island got bought out by was it
Budweiser.
InBev? Is it Anheuser-Busch?
Yeah.
InBev, yeah. And now you can find it in Japan. That's like my only hope of a place like Three Floyds ever being distributed in Japan. But I wouldn't want them to be bought out. I'd hope that they'd stay independent. But whatever.
Help me, Gumbo.
I'm
you're
actually
my
drinking a
only
beer
hope.
that yeah. I'm drinking one that I've had before from Yahoo Brewing in Nagano, the Aooni.
You know what
I don't know.
that you know what that
Pale
art
ale.
reminds me of? That art reminds me of Shadow of the Colossus.
Yeah.
It looks
kinda
like a
does
face
in
of a
a little way.
colossi.
Or like Watch Dogs or something.
No, not Watch Dogs.
Yeah.
It's not
It's actually
techy enough.
the back of the can has more of it's like a Japanese kind of motif with the clouds and the moon, which is pretty much on every single can that that Yahoo makes. There's always the moon stuck somewhere on the can, but this just, I think I've said it before, this means Blue Demon. So this is 7% IPA.
Is it blue
It's actually
though?
pretty
The
dark.
can looks black.
This looks lighter. It's blue. It's
Okay.
dark blue.
Okay.
It just doesn't come out.
Oh, I
very
see. Okay,
well.
I see
Yeah.
it now. Okay. It looks
of,
black,
right?
so that's why I had to
Yeah.
ask. I was curious.
This actually doesn't look that dark. This looks like a light amber, but it's pretty dark, pretty highly carbonated for an IPA. But I really like it. And if I'm going to diverge from my staple Ichiban Shibori, for a night, and instead of like going out of my way to go to some import shop and buy some decent import beers, this is probably as good as it gets within a very close range of my house. So yeah, drinking the Aooni 7% IPA. Then I'm gonna switch to one more beer, and then, as Mick Womble says, it's a school night. So well, I am drinking, but I'm cutting it off at 2. It's only what? It's only 4:30 here, so.
There you go.
And for
And
me,
Matt,
I
you
just
said that you. Well, what is it? It's Saturday night by you guys, so.
yeah, I was gonna say
Yeah.
I go to bed and I wake up and football will be on because it's on at 10 a.m. in the West Coast, which is the best part about living in the West Coast. It's football all day long.
Dude, I've been here for 10 years in Japan. Like, you know what? I'd kill to be able to wake up on a Sunday and watch the NFL all day. I'm so jealous. Everything is old. I have to watch spread everything out between Monday and Tuesday because I just don't have enough time.
Yeah.
I have the NFL Game Pass package, so I can watch every game, but I can't do it in a single day, and I can't watch anything live. So if like Aaron Rodgers gets an interception, I go, motherfucker, and then I like fast forward the video for like 2 minutes because I get so pissed.
Which also,
Matt, you said that you...
Well, for the record, because we're there, the reason why Keith is not here is because Keith and Dan are actually meeting to go to the football game that's coming up this morning. So like at 6 a.m., 6:30 here in the West Coast, there's a London football game. So that's why Keith and Dan, who usually are on the show, aren't here, because they're actually going to go meet in person and go socialize and go see a football game. So they're super excited about that. So hope they have fun.
What teams are playing? Do we know?
It is Miami and the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Okay.
Miami Dolphins and the Jacksonville Jaguars. Both teams suck, so it'll be an interesting game.
Yeah,
the Jaguars were good
I guess
for
that
a little
Falcons
bit.
Years ago, like 10 years ago.
Yeah. They're currently on like a 20+ game losing streak.
16 game losing streak.
I feel bad for the... Is it? Well, dating back from last year.
Oh, yeah, no, they did hit the 20. Yep, yeah, so they'll be... Yep, so they're trying to win their first game in 20 games. I feel bad
for the London games.
They get the crappy teams.
Like, that Falcons game was pretty exciting because it got down to at least the fourth quarter and the score was close. But every team that goes over there, it's always kind of like blah...
Well, every team they choose to go... I'm so sorry for you, London, because the teams they choose to go over there are rebuilding teams or teams that haven't won in years. And I don't know what they're doing about that. Like, they should really bring fucking Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers and do a game there and give them a real show, for God's sakes. Like, don't give them this crap.
They should do the Pro Bowl there one year.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
They do it in Hawaii.
Send everyone over there.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Anyways, Burkoff, what are you drinking?
Tonight, just got the Bonanza Brown from Tenaya Creek. It's my
Bonanzas.
One of my regulars. But Friday we went to Big Dogs, which is a brewing company out here in Vegas, and they had a couple of really nice beers on tap. One was the Old Jack Pumpkin Ale, which I got just the regular version of. That they also had a nitro version. My wife got that one, which is actually pretty good. So it's normally I hate fucking pumpkin everything, especially this time of year. But that particular beer has like a very subtle hint of pumpkin, and then what you're mainly tasting is like the cinnamon and nutmeg and cloves and stuff like that, combined with a strong ale. So I think it's 6.5%, something like that. So you're getting like all the spice and then just a subtle hint of nutmeg. And then one of the other beers that I tried, the second one that we got, it's called Man's Best Friend 005, and it's a brown ale that they age in Jameson whiskey barrels. Ooh. And it's 9%. They bring it out in the smaller, like tulip glass, and that was really, really good. I like barrel aged beers though, which tend to be a lot harsher. They have like a lot of strong flavors, and then that 9% alcohol, you definitely taste it. You can tell that it's high in alcohol content, so it's a good sipping beer.
Pretty much you talk about this brewing dog company. I just really need a bark sound for whenever you talk about them.
So Big Dogs is not only are they one of the bigger brewing companies out here, they're also, I think, one of the only Packer bars. The guy that owns it's from Wisconsin. It's, as far as I know, it's the only place in town where you can get walleye. They have cheese curds.
That's awesome.
That's
great. So last night I had the Brewers sandwich, which I think is named after Milwaukee Brewers, and it's 2 different types of bratwurst with sauerkraut and caramelized onions, and they do like a honey mustard sauce.
You should ask him about when he's going to start selling perch. Then you're getting legit Wisconsin-y when you're selling perch.
Yeah, I'll have to check it out. Yeah, I really enjoy walleye though.
Yeah.
That's one of the few freshwater fishes that just I absolutely love. So
Nice. All right. So,
It's funny. I haven't heard the name. The second you said walleye, it put a big smile on my face because I haven't heard name, that fish's name in
it's
so long. It just takes me back to the lake up north in Wisconsin that we went to
it's
every
yep,
yeah,
summer.
same here.
it's like you can only get it in the Midwest,
Yep.
and unless you find a place like that. And I think he flies it in.
Oh, I wouldn't
He
doubt
has
it.
Yeah, he has somebody that gets it for him, and that's like the
Dedicated
only.
Wisconsin.
Yeah, it's the only
Wisconsin
place
man.
here in town that you can get it. So
That's awesome.
That's cool.
All right. Well, now we're on to video games because we talked about our great beer, and we may talk more about our beers as we go through our beers. But what we're going to talk about today is a special day because actually, surprisingly, Evan and I both finished a game around the same time. So we thought about talking about it. And it kind of mixes into another topic in general where Burkhoff has played the genre of it in other games in its iteration. We're talking about Metroid Dread. And all of a sudden when I said the word, I phased out because that's what I feel about this game. It just phases out. Come on. Oh. I'm so sorry for our visual listeners. Oh, there we go. Okay. So we both finished Metroid Dread. I finished it in just under 12 hours. I think I was like 11:05. How many hours did it take for you, Evan, to finish the Metroid Dread?
It was like 11, almost 12 hours. It's like 11:48:50. But I got 100% of the items before I took on the final boss.
Awesome.
So I basically got up to the door, knew that once I crossed that threshold that the boss was going to be there. I'm like, you know what? If I beat the boss now, I'm not going to be as motivated to collect all the items. So I stopped right there.
Which you
got
can't
all the
even.
energy packs and the missiles and super bombs, and then finished the boss. So yeah, I'm almost about 12 hours, same as you.
Yeah, we're not going to spoil the game for anybody. So if you're worried about a spoiler talk, that's not what this is. We won't spoil anything about the game, even though there's not really much to talk about, spoiler-wise. But to actually go to Evan's point really quick, actually, it was a good thing you went backwards, because if you did go past that point and face the final boss, you can't go back. So you wouldn't have been able to go collect your things unless you can load the save. I never tried to do that after I beat the game. If I could load up my old save and it just leads me to right before the boss battle, I'll have to do that.
Does. It leads you. It drops you off right before the elevator, and you can totally go back.
After you beat the game.
Oh, after you beat the game?
Yeah, because when you go into the boss battle, you can't actually go back and collect things. So you can only do it before you go to the final boss. But anyway, we're going to talk about Metroid Dread. First, I'm going to just collect everyone's history of Metroid so we all know kind of where we're at. So if people are being like, why is this a crappy perspective this person's having? Well, it's like maybe they didn't play one before this one, so their only perspective is this one. So just to give you a perspective. So Burkhoff did not play Metroid Dread, but Burkhoff has played many, many Metroid games and other stuff. So tell us kind of your history with that and the genre itself.
So the original one, I played that. I've played Super Metroid. I've played Zero Mission for the GBA. I've played Fusion, although I never actually finished Fusion. I only put a couple hours into it. And I've played Prime.
Okay.
And I think that's all the Metroid that I've played.
Evan?
Yeah, so I'm probably started with Super Metroid, and then I think I went backwards from there. Maybe around like 2008 or 9. I got really into retro games, and my brother and I would. We both lived in Chicago at the time, very close to each other. So we got into retro games, and on Saturday and Sunday, I'd go over to his place, and we'd eventually beat games like Castlevania and Castlevania 2. And that's when I actually legitimately beat Metroid. Beat Metroid 2 for the Game Boy back in the day. Remember being in my friend's basement on my Game Boy, chipping away at that game. First mission, Fusion. never had a GameCube, so I've never played a Metroid Prime game. Then I played the 3DS game Samus Returns, which is made by Mercury Steam, the makers of Metroid Dread. Even with that little nub, I don't know how I beat that game with that little nub. It sucks.
Oh, I used a
But
Pro
even
controller. Yeah.
before, oh, I mean on the 3DS. Like,
Oh, I see.
imagine
Samus
playing a
Returns.
I see what you mean. Gotcha.
imagine playing a difficult boss that requires um,
Precision.
movement accuracy and dodging accuracy with that little 3DS nub. It was terrible. But even since then, I think at least some people on the Discord chat from Pixel Pints know that I'm a huge Metroidvania fan. Now, technically, this game is not a Metroidvania because it doesn't have any side quests or RPG elements. It's just a Metroid game. But we might mix those two names up in here just for the purpose of not having to pause every time to say, like, wait a minute, would this technically be a Metroid style game or a Metroidvania? But just putting that out there. But in general, Metroidvanias, I love them, and I play a couple a year. Um, and even some harder ones like Blasphemous and Hollow Knight and Bloodstained and Iconoclast. And there's actually another one I played. But yeah, it's one of my favorite genres, if that's what you want to call it. And I play at least 3 or 4, or maybe even 5 per year. Like, if there's a Metroidvania that comes out, I'm automatically interested in it. And there's already 2 more games coming out Ender Lilies, which is out already. And then there's one more game that I'm really interested. Oh, Fist, Forged in Shadow Torch, where you're the rabbit with the giant metal fist. So yeah, anything that has Metroidvania slapped on it as a genre. Oh, you guys haven't heard about that?
No.
F, all caps, F
IST.
period, I period, S period, T period, Forged in Shadow Torch.
I
But
thought
yeah,
I thought he was
so
about to say
basically-
F us. I'm like, F you. You don't know.
F period, U period, C. No, so basically, yeah, it's one of my favorite genres, and anything that has that name on it, I'll automatically be drawn towards it. So yeah, I've played most of all the 2D Metroid games, if not
Wow.
all of them.
Okay.
It just came out yesterday.
Forged in Shadow Torch.
Yeah, it's on Steam right now. There's a demo for it too.
All right.
I thought it came out a while ago. Maybe that was on beta or something. But anyways, yeah, huge
Maybe
fan of
it could
Metroid.
have came
huge
out.
fan
It
of
could have came out for
Metroidvanias.
console earlier and just came out for PC just yesterday.
Maybe.
Excuse me.
That's probably what happened. Yeah.
For me,
Love the genre. Metroid is one of my favorite series.
For me, I've never played a Metroidvania or a Metroid game until Metroid Dread. So this is my first experience. The only experience I've had something close to this one is I got the Secrets of Mana collection. I believe it was for my Switch. I want to say it was for my Switch. I got it for my Switch, and then
Collection of Mana you're talking about.
Yes. So it included
Right.
Final Fantasy Adventures, which was the first game. That one I played, which had some similarities that I can talk about when we get talking about Dread a little bit, and some contrivances in the genre that I think is dated, and I'm surprised they're still doing some of those things. But anyway, so this is my first Metroid game. Let's just get into our basic overall thought of it really quick, you and me, Evan. What do you think?
I really, really like it. And I know that's not where you're going with judging from the tone of your voice. But yeah, I really, really like it. It's a Metroid game through and through. I think Mercury Steam, this is their second time around making a Metroid game after Samus Returns a couple years back. I think they understand the series. I know that some people would disagree with aspects of this game, but I can see why Nintendo entrusted them with at least the 2.5D Metroid game license, because I think they just do a really, really good job of knowing what makes a Metroid game work and be successful. I do have some issues with the Emmys that we can talk about, and the map was my biggest issue might be the map. Difficulty was not an issue for me. I know that has been a very big conversation that's kind of come up specifically with this game throughout the last 2 weeks of, pundit podcasts talking about the boss fights and that. But overall, I was really, really happy with it. And when credits rolled, I was sad that, we're not going to get one for at least the next, 4 or 5 years, because I had a really, really good time playing it.
I think it's a good game, but I don't think it's a great game. I think they have some good basic elements in here that makes it enjoyable at times, but then at times it makes me feel like I want to pull my teeth out. I would agree with you. The Emmys on this game, not Emmys like the awards. It's an acronym for robot machines that kind of follow you around the map that are trying to kill you. And what happens is for them. So what happens for them is now you're just starting to look now you're starting to look like an old school coach because you got the mustache. With the towel on, but and a beer.
Like
oh my gosh!
Wisconsin.
Oh yeah, Jesus Christ!
Fucking eating some walleye in my rocking chair.
But I think that it's like I like what they were trying to do with it. I feel like in many aspects of this game, they have a good idea. They just don't grow upon it enough to make it creative and to keep evolving the concept. I feel like they just go, this is the concept. It's the same concept every time, and we're just going to make it harder for you to do that concept. So like, it's not necessarily the Emmys get more difficult to avoid. It's that, well, they do. They get more difficult to avoid because the obstacles they put in your way is the thing that makes it difficult. And then when you get the cloaking to be able to cloak yourself and hide from them, they stay there longer, and then you lose health because you have to stay there longer hidden while they try to like look away from you. And like an example is like near the end, it was like the last two really just bugged the living crap out of me. I was like, this is just annoying than it is actually like fun to avoid them and like try to outsmart them, because I ran into the issue where they just put water, and of course you're going to move slow in water. Like you don't get the ability yet to be able to move fast in water. And so basically what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to shoot my grappling laser thing to try to gain movement speed and go faster. And I wasn't able to do so. And it's just like, I think that was one thing of the map. I agree with you, is a big issue as well. I think the old school, when I talked about Final Fantasy Adventure, and I said there were some things that are like similar between those two games, it's that I had to double back a few times because I'm not used to the genre of, I had to like find this one little spot to shoot an opening for a spot I didn't know existed. And it doesn't like tell or help you. I think the what's the word I'm looking for? The visual language is non-existent in some aspects, to the point where that's where I think they're like, well, it's part of the genre. And it's like, no, games have evolved. Like where you have visual language to help players understand that's breakable, that's not breakable. Now they do have some aspects where they're going, this is how you break it using this type of ability. But when it just comes to just breaking a wall in general, until you get the mechanic to scan to see if it breaks, you just have to shoot everything pointlessly to figure out if it's going to break or not. And that's annoying. I don't know how else to explain it in that way.
Trying to see where we should go with this.
The one thing that I'm really curious about is, so when you started this a week ago, right? Was when it came out last Friday?
Last Friday, yeah. Started it last Friday.
Yep.
So we talked last week, and you had just started. You're like, oh yeah, I'm excited to play it. I'm like, oh, have you played Super Metroid yet? And you're like, no, I haven't. Do you think you will still go back to Super Metroid after playing Dread? Or has Dread ruined the experience for you to where you don't want to delve into that type of game again?
I think I want a break, but I will come back to it.
Okay.
I think because I think like I said, when it's good, it's good. But I think also the game dragged a little too long, so I ended up getting pretty bored near the end because there wasn't anything creative to keep me going. Even though I was getting new abilities, the gameplay wasn't evolving enough for me to feel like it was it was making me think harder or change my tactics. It wasn't really doing anything much in the concept. It was kind of just more level, and I was like, okay, just shoot them up. Okay, just jump around. Okay.
So what aspects of the game did you enjoy and did you like?
I do like that once you kind of figure out the boss's patterns, it becomes you can really become a master of like killing the bosses. But then it's a catch-22. So like Evan said, he went backwards to get all this stuff for the final boss. I just hopped in, and I didn't even last 5 seconds. So like I would hop in, and I kept dying and dying and dying and dying within 5 seconds. So I couldn't read the pattern, and so then it became really frustrating. So I was like, okay, now I got to backtrack through all this stuff to like go there. But like when the platforming is good, it's really good. When the shooting's good, it's really good. I think some of the level design is a little awkward, that it doesn't, I don't feel like as if I have if I go through a map, I should feel like I have a flow to it, right? Like where I could just run across the map and not have to worry about like hitting a wall here because of the way like the hopping works here, or like they should have the map be adjusted so that like it should flow, because I feel like that's how Samus moves, is like you don't want her to stop. You just want her to keep moving forward and never have her stop motion. And so I felt like some of the levels were built to make you stop, and I was like, why? Like this is just kind of contrarian from what the flow works. So like when it's there, it's really good, but it's just sometimes it wasn't, and it threw it way off, and I was like, what? And which made backtrack. Sometimes backtracking was the most difficult thing, because yes, I want to find like the fastest fastest route to get to the thing I want to, but at the same time I could be sacrificing enjoying the gameplay of the platforming, because I'm going through all these awkward things where I'm just like slide here, roll here, spin the ball here, I gotta zoom through this thing, and then I gotta like hit the slide. That it just doesn't, it became, the backtracking actually became the most frustrating thing by the end of it. But like getting through the level, it was more fun.
So I think, for me, these types of games, sometimes when I do the backtracking, I'm like, I don't really want to do it. And so I'm like, oh, okay, I'm here, and I'm looking around, and I still don't see what I'm supposed to see, and that can get frustrating. So I get where you're going with that. Like, even though it's a necessary evil to backtrack and find those secrets and find the parts of the level that you couldn't access until you had whatever power up or whatever.
Well, and and to just kind of, and I think Evan mentioned this as well, some of the controls on this are really wonky, to the point where it's like, an example is, I'm supposed to be able to take my grappling magnet hook and swing from one point to another. But the thing is, you have to hit 3 buttons to get the grappling to shoot. And so to swing from one to shoot to swing to the other is actually way more difficult, because you have to try to coordinate so many buttons at once.
That's weird. I feel like in Super Metroid it was just the L and R.
And I don't.
Yeah, the thing here, Matt, is they've added so many other power-ups.
Okay.
That they're dedicating them to their other buttons, but then there's power-ups where you have to hold a button alongside a shoulder button
and press a button.
It's not as bad as Red Dead Redemption 2, where I was 80 hours in that game and I would accidentally shoot people instead of like surrender my gun. It's like one of the most confusing control schemes I have ever experienced in my history of gaming. But I will say, I do agree with you, Mitch, that there were times where I would constantly accidentally shoot a missile when I wanted to shoot my grappling hook, or
Okay.
I shot something else when I needed my grappling hook to open up a grappling hook door. And there's a lot of weird things too where
Well, and also, sorry,
instead of being
before
able
you
to
keep
press
going. Sorry, before you keep going. It also can like hurt
yeah,
you
go
at the
ahead.
worst times during boss battles. That's when it becomes the most frustrating. You're like, I didn't mean to do that, and all of a sudden I died now. Because as you get further,
Like,
they take more damage from you, which then means like only 3 hits could kill you instead of like 7. So sorry, keep going.
well, I think one thing about the boss battles that I do appreciate is I think they realized how overly complicated they made the control scheme. So there isn't a lot of bosses. There's no boss where you have to use your grappling hook to like pull its legs out from under it and then revert to like your missiles or anything like that. So at least as long as you have your gun, and if you hold, so Matt, you just shoot your gun with Y, and then if you hold down R and shoot, that's the missile.
Right.
Pretty much every boss in the game can be downed that way. Um, and I think they've probably figured that out. And like, this is a bit too wonky. One of my biggest issues with the controls, Mitch, is that you can't switch button inputs, and Matt, you can't use the D-pad for movement.
What?
That's nuts, dude.
Well, they do that because you have to aim with the left stick, which is your movement
Oh my
button.
God.
So like
No, that's a big no-no. Why?
So Matt, to Evan, what he was saying was, he said that you had to like hold the R button and then hit a button to shoot your rocket. Well, in this case, to free aim your cannon, to not only just shoot the gun, but also to shoot missiles and stuff, you have to hold L. So you can be holding L, R, and hitting your button to shoot a rocket.
Yeah, okay.
Trying to think. That doesn't sound like
what
it's.
the hell-
I
what the
never
hell
had
is-
a difficulty with the missile, but
What is the D-pad
yeah, you can't
used
use
for?
the D-pad. You can't switch it out. Ridiculous. Like the D-pad is used almost zero. One thing it does is if you hit, it's either left or down. The mini map on the upper right hand screen will slightly get bigger, which is completely useless. No one has ever used it to look at a slightly bit more map. And the other thing later is it's used for your, in Super Metroid when you finally got the sensor beam that would kind of like 3D, it would send out a pulse, and then it would show you like where secrets or like hidden walls were and stuff like that. Holding R on the D-pad will
That's
let
right.
you use your pulse ability to find secrets. That's basically it. So it boggles my mind why you're not able to switch out the left stick for the D-pad.
I honestly think if I had bought it last Friday, I would be here tonight being like, guys, do you know how to change?
Yeah. And
do you know how to
Shane,
make it so that I can control the D-pad?
yeah, I don't understand why you can't map that stuff. It seems this is a solved issue, and Nintendo is the worst. I know Mercury Steam is not Nintendo, but they're the worst offenders of this stuff, where they just don't give you the option to button map. And Shane even talked about this, and I totally agree. Sometimes when you want to duck, you'll roll into a ball. Sometimes when you want to duck, it won't work, just because analog sticks are not as accurate as a D-pad.
Well, and also I'll accidentally slide instead of rolling into a ball. Like that happened a lot with the last boss for me. I was like, "Come on, stop sliding! I just need you to turn into a ball."
Anything that has to do with movement, where you're switching between crouched, the ball, or standing, does not work all the time. And in other Metroid games, that is a non-issue because of the D-pad.
Yeah.
The reason that it's such an issue in this game is with two things. One, some of the later items require you to shine spark, and I don't know if for people who aren't familiar with shine sparking, what shine sparking is later in the game you get the power up where as long as you have to hold down a button, and if you've covered enough ground, you'll be able to speed run through walls and objects.
Oh, actually, I learned, Evan, you actually don't have to hold it down. You just need to press it once and continue the movement. I learned.
You press it once, yeah. You just tap in the left stick. Once you built up that speed, if you hit down, you'll absorb that energy and start flashing purple. That's shine sparking. What that allows you to do is to be able to cover some ground regularly, and then unleash the Shine Spark with a B that will send you shooting in a specific direction later. Instead of having to constantly keep that motion going forward and jumping, you can absorb that energy, do some platforming, and then release it later. For a lot of the hidden missile tanks, you have to do some crazy Shine Spark platforming where it's all about timing. If you don't like run through something, press down to absorb the Shine Spark, and then do some platforming and get to a specific location where you can unleash it and go through, you will not be able to do it. And because the analog stick is inaccurate, I just found myself accidentally doing something I didn't want to do.
Wow.
It'd be like playing, like a fighting game with an analog stick. You're like, no, I pressed Hadouken. Like,
it's like the game is hard not because of the actual game itself. It's because of the controls. Trying to just figure out the controls and make them do what you want them to do specifically is what makes it difficult, not necessarily the actual, but sometimes the thing they're actually trying to make you do is difficult. So adding that difficulty with the controls and trying to make sure that they're doing the thing you're trying to make them do correctly makes it like a double, because I ended up giving up backtracking because I hit a few spots where the Shine Spark was a huge element of trying to unlock some stuff, and I was just like, fuck it.
There's two specifically in really, really hard ones in there that I eventually did because I didn't want to. But I was totally playing this game, and it was like textbook. It's not me. It's you. It is not me. It is you. And then with boss battles, like, this isn't your old school Metroid where it was. And Burkoff, you know what I'm talking about. The old school games, they're not like Twitch platforming games. I mean, if you had enough energy tanks and missiles, it was just a war of attrition where you would be constantly getting hit, but as long as you shot enough missiles at the boss, like, you would eventually win. That is not the case for this game. There's more power-ups in the game. There's like a dash that you can do 3 in succession, where you'll be sliding under bosses, you'll be jumping over them and dashing. You'll be dashing to move out of the way and then parrying. So
you'll be hitting buttons in the area so that you can have the opening so you can shoot them. Countering is a big thing in this game, which actually I do like the counter. I think the counter makes it does change up the gameplay to the point where I feel like I don't have to constantly shoot everything. Like, some of it is like it's more easy just to counter the enemy instead of trying to shoot it. And even in the boss battles, it makes it more interesting.
You're rewarded with more missiles and health if you parry an enemy to kill it instead of just kill it outright.
And without giving it away, the last boss battle with countering the final boss, it's awesome. Like, it's really cinematic. It's really cool because you can actually like shoot them at the same time when you're countering them. And I know they do it in a different boss battle as well. And it's just really cool because it's just cinematic and you feel like, oh my God. Because like you'll hit the counter button and you'll go through a sequence where it looks like, oh, it's all like pre-done for you, but you can still shoot them. You can hit the shoot button. And so like they'll be doing Samus will be doing these spin moves and like dodging and then still shooting rockets at it as they jump over its head, and like it's really cinematic in that way, and like that's really cool. I like that. That's modernized that in the way I like it, that it like takes the 2D and expands it into the 2.5, and it really does it well in that aspect.
Yeah.
Okay. What, Burkoff? What do you want?
The movement stuff. Sorry, the movement stuff bothered me the most when getting the Shine Spark necessary extra upgrades. When facing bosses, I found like the dashing and the jumping to be completely accurate. I didn't really have many issues with that. Every now and then I would press a button that I didn't mean to fire something I didn't mean, but overall it was fine. I wanted to quickly backtrack to the Emmys, where I actually think it's pretty neat. But like Burkoff, I guess imagine Super Metroid with the same map,
right,
but in Brinstar, or oh man, my gamer card is slowly being taken out of my pocket.
It's been fucking 30 years since I played that game, so don't worry about
Brinstar. and another location in Super Metroid. Imagine within that world, there was like in the middle of those maps, there was an extra map where there's very clear doors entering and leaving those places where there was some enemy that was chasing you. And
Yeah.
I hate invincible enemies. I hate them. Like I've bitched about Mr. X on RE2
It's
remake
really not that
tons
bad.
of times. He's really not that bad. Well, here's the reason that I think he works in a way is because he's pretty much relegated to a very small portion of that game, and he comes into play after you've already explored and familiarized yourself with the police department. So you're not running through an area that you're not familiar with, and then once you're past the police department, he goes away. Go ahead.
For the audio listeners, Mitch just popped open his watermelon cart.
That is watermelon, man, at its finest. That is like.
Is that a good thing or
that
a bad
is like
thing, though?
I can smell the watermelon instantly in my mouth. It tasted like watermelon, like the sweet. It's like, hold on, let me just one more. Just
you should have seen it. He looked very, very happy. That was a that was a commercial-esque reaction to a sip.
So like I mentioned, the last one had the bit of wheat in it before I hit to the fruit flavor. This is fruit in your face. It's just like it's like watermelon splat. And then the what is it? I think it's the cantaloupe.
The honeydew.
The honey. I mainly taste the cantaloupe at that end. Like you can. It's like watermelon to cantaloupe.
Interesting. Okay.
It's
Mitch, I'm going to cast you in a mid-90s Starburst-esque commercial marketed towards kids where you pour the beer and you drink it and your head explodes and turns into like a giant watermelon with like
gushers,
creepy eyes, and you're like, whoa!
Or the warhead candy, and my head turns into a warhead. And
yeah.
You're thinking of gushers.
The gushers. Yeah,
head turns into a fountain.
Yep, that's true.
Juice.
Yeah, all of those things together in a commercial for this beer.
I would say this one is more traditional beer. And I'm pointing at the pineapple one because it's more definitely you got the wheat flavor. This tastes more like a seltzer, but it's not. There's still wheat. You can still taste the wheat, but it tastes a lot more. It's way lighter. It's a lot more like I could compare it to a seltzer. Like the closest thing you could get to not having a seltzer, but then having a beer, you know.
Sounds like a very dangerous summer drink.
It's a dangerous summer drink and one that you could like spring on your significant other and you'd be like, hey, you want to try this seltzer? And then they would be like, and then they would be
one where you're like outside in the sun and you're just like fucking pounding them and like, I'm drunk now.
I don't know if I could pound these because to be honest, it tastes really
summer hothead.
I wouldn't say it tastes. I feel like it tastes like there's sugar in it, but I don't know if there actually is sugar in it. And maybe it's just the sweetness. I don't know. It tastes like it's a
sugar.
The watermelon.
Water.
The watermelon is not necessarily like the blood orange in the last beer actually tasted like the fruit of a blood orange. This watermelon tastes more like the sweet candy watermelon, not necessarily like an actual watermelon. But the cantaloupe at the end tastes like a cantaloupe, if that makes sense. So like you might get too sweet on it. You'd be like, oh, it's too sweet. I can't have it anymore. Like this is a good one-time beer.
Right.
So okay, sorry. Keep going.
Yeah, it doesn't. When you say a beer tastes like a seltzer, I don't know if that's necessarily the beer for me. It seems a bit too light and too heavily carbonated, but I don't know. I would have to try it.
I wouldn't recommend it for you.
I don't know that I would enjoy it either, but yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good.
You also said something.
It's a good change up. So like if you're looking for something light and just like something with because it is a totally like it is night and day difference between these two beers. That's why my facial expression just went like whoa, because I was expecting like the same weediness and I barely got any of it and I just got all watermelon. So that's why I was just so thrown off. So like if you want to change up, Those are the two combos to do a change up for, because that's gonna get you good.
You also said it's a good beer to like spring on your significant other. It sounds like you're tricking your significant other into getting drunk. I don't know if that's something you want to
I'm sorry.
recommend to those.
When I mean spring on your significant other, if they're only into seltzers and they're not into actually like legit beers, this is one you could like. This is like the next level. You could be like, here, try this one, see how this tastes, and then maybe introduce them to a more weedy beer after that.
Okay, I got you. Like they drink this, like, oh, this is really good. Like, hey, that's a beer actually.
And they'd be like, what? It's a beer.
Yeah.
All right, should we get back into...
And then they start doing lines of cocaine.
Yep.
Yeah.
We're back. We're back on the Emmys, but not the Emmys.
Yeah. So we should probably roll this into our actual kind of second topic, for Burkoff's sake, because he hasn't played this game. The one thing about the map. Okay, two things quickly. The map. Now, Burkoff, you're very familiar with what the maps look like in Metroidvanias. It's very brightly colored, a very strong blue with very thick, bright white lines signifying walls, and any room that you've been to turns to really bright pink.
Okay.
So even with so imagine this, Mitch, like when you're filling out the map, any room in your vicinity that you haven't been to but you're close enough to is blue. Any room you've been to turns pink. And anything that's a wall is a thick white line. So even when you zoom out on the map, it is very clear where you have and haven't been. And it's very clear if there's a blue room with no thick line on that side, or there's a pink room rather, where I have been, with no thick white line on the left side. That means there's no wall there. I need to explore further. Very, very clear. And all of the colors in this game, whether it be like the missile icons are red, the doors are orange, there's some that are green. Every color is like a really grayed out green tone or a red tone that when you zoom out, everything just looks really, really transparent and muted, that when you zoom out to the big picture, there is so much going up on screen, and I took a picture of it. It's really, really hard to parse out exactly where you have and haven't been, or instead of it being like a thick white line showing you, there's no wall here, it's like fog of war that you're filling in. So when you zoom out and you're trying to get those final items, like Mitch was, and you're just like, where have I not been? So then you have to zoom in and kind of like snake your way through the map, and you're like, oh, I see it right there. There's like fog of war there. That's where I haven't been. And I just think someone was trying to be like, I get the design choice of what they were doing, because each thing is very specific, and once you wrap your head around the map, it does make sense. However, it takes too long for you to be able to figure it out, and I just think it doesn't work in the way that it should. It should be very simply showing you where you have and you haven't been, what items you have and you don't have, and that, like, Axiom Verge 2's map was better than this. So, like, I was able to figure my way through that, and that's all a heavily pixelated map.
Well, here's something that
was an issue for me.
Here's something that would save it all its trouble. So first off, this game doesn't even run in 1080p when it's docked. It's 900, and it shows. It doesn't look very good on my screen. Like I didn't
notice any.
Well, I have a 1440p monitor in front of me, and that's where I played this game off of, and I played it for a few hours in handheld mode. And I thought the quality was so much better in the handheld mode in regards to detail. Okay. But I think something that would have saved the map some trouble was every time that... So, like, if you found an item... So, say I found extra rockets. It would show up on the map. And it would be in a... Like Evan said, most of the stuff is transparent. This one would be in a thicker, bold red. But then when I get the item,
but it's like slightly more transparent. It's barely noticeable.
Right. But then when I get the item, it turns transparent. it doesn't disappear off the map.
Completely.
It's still on the map.
Yeah.
And it's to the point where I have to zoom in to tell, is this bold
so like,
or is it
do I
transparent?
need to go pick this up again? Or
Yes, because I don't know if
Yeah.
it's.
Right.
I can't tell because it's so the difference between the bold and the transparent is so minute, so small that I have to zoom in to like look really close to go, is that boldened or is that transparent?
Yeah.
And then I go, oh, that's transparent. But I zoomed in, and now I have to zoom back out to go zoom back in to see if this is. It's just like it's
a bad map.
The one thing
It's too much going on.
The one thing I did wish, and I think this is something that, and this is what I talk about, like, you know, old game models in regards to like the genre and how to evolve it. The reason why I love and the reason why I really liked the remake of Resident Evil 2, and was something they did super great, which they didn't do in the original games, was they updated their map. And they updated it to the modern standard. So they still had the original of like, the map doesn't show you too much. But the other thing that it does do is if you go in a room and you leave that room and you still have items in that room, it will still be, it will outline it and then also highlight it in a different color, which will then help me know that I didn't go grab something there. And I think this game would have saved me so much time if they just said, hey, like there is a couple times where they do that, but there's a couple times where I found things where they didn't do that. And I was like, well, what justifies it saying, because what it does is it will take it and then it will, in white blocks, it will flash in white if there's something to destroy in the room.
It very lightly flashes in an area that you haven't found a secret, Burkhoff.
But then it's
like very, very light.
But so you don't know really,
right? But then the other thing I found out is as I was backtracking, was sometimes there were things hidden in a room, but it didn't show that same visual language of the flashing light. So I was like, well, which one is it? Like, you need to be able to be consistent between both of them. If it's hidden, you need to show me. If you're not going to show me if it's hidden, then don't show me, because I went through, basically I got to the point where I found, I think it was 88% of an items in one space. And then I just said, screw it, because they're not visually telling me where I'm missing something. Because I went through every single room according to the map, because at least fortunate enough, they give you a room that you can put your blaster in. And basically what it does, it gives you blocks of all the areas that are in the map. But it doesn't necessarily show you the size of the room. It just shows a block. And it's really transparent.
I don't like the way that looks.
It's really bad.
It's just very confusing.
It's just bad and confusing.
Yeah.
But that's I mean,
the colors are way too muted is one of the other issues that I have with just the map in general, and they put too much on it. I'll skip the Emmy stuff. I like them overall, but the one Mitch in Underwater, I died more on that Emmy section than I did in the final boss, because I didn't know how to get from the door I entered to a door to checkpoint me.
Yeah,
and I got
that's
lucky
partially
with a
it
parry.
too. Yep, that's what I got.
I was like,
lucky
I don't know
with
what to do. This area isn't designed very well. I don't know where I'm supposed to be hiding. I just kept dying, and then luckily I parried him and I was able to escape it. But other than that, I did like how it broke up the game. But anyway, so
I mean,
Mitch,
they were fun in the beginning, and I think if they did, like, instead of, I think there's 7 or 8 of them, if they did 5 of them, I would have been happy. I think it was like the last 3 kind of pulled your teeth.
Well, if you think about it, there kind of are only 5.
Isn't there 7?
There are 7.
Show up more than once.
But it's like barely a fight for 2 of them.
Oh yeah, that's true. So now,
but basically the last ones, the one in the water, is like, this kind of sucks.
Well, I think the biggest thing, my biggest issue was like the movement was hindered in the water, and then when I did hide, the thing compared to the other Emmys, it looked for me longer in the spot I was standing at, so I couldn't uncloak myself because I would be found. And so then it was basically
that part I didn't get. I didn't get either.
It was like forcing you to get rid of health, basically saying like, oh, you don't have enough health to get through this area, and that's like stupid way of telling you to do that. I don't know.
Yeah, you're just kind of standing there, and it's scanning the section that you're at for like 5 seconds. It's like, bro, I'm not here. Like,
Just
fucking
walk
go
away.
away.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was annoying.
Yeah.
But the second portion of this, well, yeah, we really did talk about fucking Metroid Dread for a really long time. Apologies to Burkoff.
About an hour and a half, yeah.
Nah, he's enjoying it because then he doesn't get to play. Then he doesn't have to play it because he knows.
Actually, yeah, no.
Oh,
honestly, knowing
it's
that
good. I really like it.
We
knowing
basically are
that I can't
educating
use
him.
the D-pad, I'm like, well, fuck it then.
I shouldn't have said anything.
Why do I even want to spend the money?
Well, I mean, I guess Burkoff, when I play Super Metroid, I'll be able to tell you, being like, well, if you really like, you'll be like, I like Super Metroid, and I'd be like, well, you won't, you will or will not like Dread.
I'm really curious, yeah, because it sounds like a lot of the same stuff is in Dread. Like it sounds like they basically made. Well, I mean, it's Metroid 5, right? So they took all the lessons that they learned from Super Metroid and Fusion and put it in this new game.
I mean, I think there's a lot of good elements there for sure. I just think whoever gave this 9 or higher is on crack cocaine or super high, because there's no way off the list of things we talked about, controls alone does not give this thing a 9.5. Like, to me, it's like a 8. It's a solid 8.
It's there is, yeah, I mean, well, there's a reason they call it the Nintendo bump, right? To go along with the good analogies.
I think this game could fall either way, because you're going to hand this off to someone who plays Nintendo games, almost not necessarily specifically, but 2, who is a fan of the Metroid series, right? But then you could get someone who falls on the side of Matt Kyle from Game Face, where he's a huge Metroid fan and he did not like it, or the other side where I guess more people, if you're a Metroid fan, I think you will lean more towards the good. As much as I complained about stuff, I was only basically what I talked about were my nitpicks of the game. Overall, I think it is a very, very competent Metroid game, and I think it's a really, really good game.
Oh, I do have one thing to say that is not well, it's part of an issue, but I'm not blaming the game necessarily. I blame Nintendo. You ready for this? Look at the controller. So this is a Pro controller. So look where the B button is. Now look at all the other controllers that we play with on our consoles. You know, the PlayStation, we have... funny, I got all these controllers next to me. We got the X...
You always have everything next to you.
That's true. So look, the X button's on the bottom. If you look at my Xbox controller, I use it for Game Pass. You know, the A is on the bottom. What button was on the bottom for Nintendo? Oh yeah, it's the freaking B button. So when I died, instead of hitting,
it's always been that way.
I know, but here
the B button.
Hold on.
Was there before
I know.
Before Xbox was a twinkle in Microsoft's.
But
you gotta rewire your brain, even to get on the fucking eShop.
Yeah, but
you gotta change the buttons that you use, dude. Come on.
Yeah, so here you go. So I was playing Dread. So I was playing Dread, and so something I do think they did a good job is the checkpoints. The checkpoints they did a good job with. They do let you hard save, but then for certain elements like the Emmys, they would put you right before you got into the entrance. If you faced off against a boss battle, they would put you at the entrance of the boss battle, so you didn't have to backtrack from your last save point. But what ended up happening was I can't remember what I was doing, but I think I was like trying to move on to the next thing, and I wasn't sure exactly how to get there, and I was trying to figure it out as I go at the moment. And I ended up, so you die, and they're like, hit A to continue, or hit B to exit. And I hit out of frustration because I was mad at the game. I think I was at it. I hit the B button. And then they're like, do you want to confirm? And I hit A without thinking about it. And then I lost an hour and a half of progress.
Wow. Okay.
That's
because
what we call that's not the game, that's you. It's the opposite of what I was referring to
no,
earlier.
Yeah.
I'm calling
Meaning, Mitch,
out
that was totally your
Nintendo.
fault.
I'm calling out Nintendo for their bullcrap, putting the B button where the A and X button are.
Well, in Japan, it's the other
If
way around
anything,
for
when Microsoft
PlayStation.
made their controller, they should have not necessarily industry standard, but
Well,
the Nintendo control has
well-
B there and A there. Why don't we do the same thing?
Well, Sony did it where
That's
they put,
not a B though.
but they put an X button
what?
at the bottom.
Those are shapes.
Yeah,
That's not alphabet.
but it's
How does that translate to B?
but here
Are
when
you talking about cancel versus?
yes,
Yeah, in
accept.
Japan, it's the
Yes and
opposite.
no.
Basically, cancel and yes.
Yeah.
Because B means
I see
cancel.
what you mean.
X
Okay.
X or A means accept, and they switched it on your controller so that you're accidentally hitting the cancel button on everything instead of hitting the accept button.
Oh.
So I have to rewire my brain
see what
whenever
you're
I play a
saying.
Switch game, which I don't get to play them
Yeah,
very
you do.
often because they don't have enough new games out for this system. That I
You
have
were
to.
totally gonna say for this son of a bitch.
I wasn't going to say that, but I have to
thought-
rewire my brain
you
to be
were
able to
referring
hit the
to
right
B.
buttons. No. Well, yeah, but
Well, I didn't have that problem because X is cancel in Japan and circle is
Yeah.
circle means yes, X means no. Although they did switch that for the PlayStation 5.
so
which I
yeah.
don't have.
So it's just
Thanks for bringing it up.
Thanks Nintendo. Thanks for going away from the curb in the bad way. Do we have anything more? What are we gonna keep going?
I don't know. I mean, we're gonna
Should we
talk
just save?
a little bit about
Are we gonna save this
Metroidvania.
topic?
Yeah, but we could probably just save the topic because we already killed 90 minutes talking about Dread.
I mean,
All right. How do we end this?
we can still keep going. I guess you wanted to talk about the Emmys, so let's talk about the Emmys really quick, and then we'll end it there.
Actually, one thing I'll actually throw this to Burkoff because he hasn't spoken very much, and this is something that you had said earlier in the podcast, Mitch, when you were kind of talking about your grievances with the game. Is Burkoff, when he was talking about getting to a location where he didn't necessarily know what to do and he had to kind of shoot around to figure it out before getting the pulse. Like, you've played Super Metroid. How do you feel about? To Mitch, that's frustrating. To someone who's maybe has more experience with these games, is that an issue for you?
So just backtracking in general, I was just thinking about, it's sort of a genre convention that you backtrack and once you have certain power-ups or whatever, like in Bloodstained, to be able to drain the, I guess this is a huge spoiler for Bloodstained, but where you drain the pool of blood that's at the very beginning of the game, to even remember back that you have to fucking go there after you get that power up. Like it explains what the power up is, right? And you're already fucking 10 hours away from when you first saw that. So even when you backtrack all the way, you're like, what the hell do I have to do? What am I thinking about here?
I was stuck.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't know what to do.
I wandered around that room forever. And like, I don't know what the fuck I'm supposed to do here. I feel like that's kind of an issue for a lot of these games, but that's a part of it,
Well, but do you think like
for
sorry,
Super Metroid, it was the scanning, where you had to like scan all the bricks or all the different blocks, to where you could find the ones that if you run on them they'll disappear. So yeah, I don't know.
Want some onions? Yeah. So, Mitch, in Super Metroid, they didn't necessarily have the pulse. Basically, what Samus gets is a vision cone like Eevee, but if you had it on and it was in your vision cone, it would show you hidden blocks, and you had to actually do it yourself.
Yeah. So
but do you
There's
get
a
that?
good portion.
Do you get that at the very beginning though?
no, it's
No,
like
you get it way late in the game.
Yeah.
Same.
So here's the
Same
thing.
deal.
Like, do you think and this is my question to you, Burkoff, and this actually kind of goes into what we're talking about, is games evolve, right? Like, we're not playing games from the Super Metroid era anymore. Like, games have evolved to the point where we have things like visual language to help explain to players in regards to, you can climb that. That's
Right.
that you can interact with that object, to basically not make something visually look like you can interact with it. Isn't that a contrivance more than an actual way of telling the player of, you can make it very faint. You can maybe like change the color of it and make it really a faint color that, sure, you have to look a little more careful, but at least it's there that you know, instead of just going, well, I guess I have to shoot the room around because I don't know what to do.
So, just like coming off the cuff, the only thing that I could think that would make it less arduous is if you weren't backtracking through areas that you've already been through, but rather continuing on in a more linear fashion. But at that point, it's just another platformer. It's not really.
But I think they actually, you would be shocked that Metroid actually is more linear than you expect. So according to,
well, no, I know it is, but I'm saying, like, in terms of the point where you get like the scan beam or the pulse or whatever, if it just continued on into another section that you'd never explored before, but you still had to use that new power up to get beyond that next section, that might alleviate some of the frustration. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it just happened so early in the game that I felt like, as the player, I was doing something wrong. I missed something. So like what happened was, so like in Dread, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different locations you kind of transport between that are
different biomes or whatever.
Biomes, their own map. So as after I completed the first biome and I found my first transport to go to the second biome, and the entryway, the clear entryway to get into like the next room as soon as I enter the new biome, was clearly blocked.
Right.
And there was no visual language for the game to tell me, you know, there's actually a hidden block somewhere you have to shoot in this room, and then it unlocks the path for you to move forward. And so what I did was, I was like, okay, clearly I did something wrong because I shouldn't be here, or I missed an item to be able to get me to be able to open this door that I can't open. So I went back and I went through the entire first biome as much as I could, because they end up re-blocking the space from you to be able to travel back, to go backtrack in certain areas of the map. So I only had like small section of the first biome I actually could still explore. And I kept exploring that section and going, what am I missing?
Yeah.
And I couldn't find it. And so I actually had to, and this is where I always ding a game for this. Like I just, if I have to look up what I have to do next, the game is not telling me what to do. And especially once I find out the answer, and the answer is not clear, of being like, oh, I'm an idiot, I missed that. Where this is like, no, they didn't tell you anything. You're just supposed to shoot randomly and expect to have this go open, and you're like, oh, okay, it opened because I shot it. Not because of like, oh, the game had this a certain color and I missed it, so I knew I had to shoot it, but I just missed it. You know?
I think a lot of people enjoy that, though. I think a lot of people enjoy the mental checklist throughout the level.
But what's enjoyable about that?
I don't know. I'm not one of those people. I don't particularly enjoy like trying to remember all the different areas, different shit, for when I come across it, you know.
But there's not even something in the room to tell you that you should shoot it. It's completely...
No, it's up to you. It's up to you, gamer. You have to remember this shit as you're going through the level. Like, you should be mindful of all this stuff, and should know that you have to try whatever different power-ups you receive. You know.
Well, this wasn't even a power-up. This was just, you had to shoot, because I only had one power-up I received by then, and the power-up wasn't even that great. Wasn't one I could use in that space.
Go ahead, Evan.
I think this is an issue with just growing pains, Mitch, of someone who hasn't played any of these games. I do understand the argument of I shouldn't have to know anything about this genre because everything should be communicated to me in this within this single game, right? I totally get that. However, there's a streamer that I watch, and he was playing Metroid Dread, and I only watch parts that I've already done. And he's playing this game. He's talking to his audience, and he sees like a section that just like looks slightly out of place, and he immediately starts going up and bombing the walls and shooting. And it's like this is just something that you do in these games, no matter what. And so, I get where you're coming from as a new player to this game, or these styles of games where you're supposed to poke and prod, i.e., shoot missiles and bomb the shit out of every single kind of strange-looking wall, or even just a regular wall in this game, because there's usually something behind it. I actually never ran into that style of problem, because anytime I saw a wall, before I proceeded, I shot missiles at it or bombed it, and it's just one of the growing pains of getting through these series. And now that you've done this, not that you're gonna like go down this path of like playing Metroidvanias based on kind of how you feel about this game, but it's something that you know to do now, and that's just never a frustration that I had come into contact with. My frustration when I got lost in the map, it was more on me, but it was also on the map because I had missed a fog of war section in the previous section where there was an item that it was just one room that I passed by, and I just didn't see it because of the fog of war. Whereas if that map was bright blue with the thick, bright white walls and pink, I would have known, like, oh, I haven't been there. I need to do that type of thing.
I think...
But yeah, it's just one of the things that you do in these games.
I get that. I just wish the game did... So, like, even if they didn't do the visual language, like I'm explaining, and they were like, oh, we want to keep it to the traditional style. I think that the issue, though, is they don't understand that, there's a lot of Switches out there. There are going to be people playing their first Metroid game for their first time. And I feel as if the game should have offered tools to the player to say, hey, do you need a hint here? Because it's just so of just, do you need a reminder about something? Like, it's simple as like being like, hey, are you stuck? Click here for a hint, and then there'll just be the hint. And it could be just as simple as, remember to shoot the walls because things might open up.
I'm really curious because they've been stuck on Prime 4 for a really long time now, right?
Right. I mean, I've never played a Prime game either. I mean, I've seen them, but I never played them.
No, but like the closest, I guess, analog would be Batman Arkham. So that's a Metroidvania in 3D. That's kind of the way that Prime works. The original game. And I wonder if some of the reasons that they haven't been able to complete Prime 4 or it's been, stuck in development hell is a lot of this type of shit where you just can't design it to where it makes sense for a modern player. You know what I mean?
I think
they're having a hard time letting people know
conveying that stuff and not making it too hand-holdy, but still
Uncharted, like painted edge
right,
of
exactly.
climbable thing, flashing,
Yeah, I think that's a big thing. That's a really, really good point, and I think also the thing that made Arkham work so well with, now that you're telling me, it's, obviously I knew it was a Metroidvania style because like you get a new tool, you can backtrack and go to this new area. I kind of already knew it was in that, but what made it work so well was the map was good, and I think that's something that Evan and I are really harped on this thing. Like if the map was better, I think we would have had a better experience with the backtracking. But I get your point in the aspect of, that's probably a difficulty for them to figure out of how do we let players know of being like, if you're lost, this is how you get unlost. Because in games before, they didn't have the tools. Because like I went back and played Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time on the 3DS. The new 3DS, I think it was on. And, well, technically I played on the 2DS, but What ended up happening was I got stuck a few times. And again, because of the age of the game, it's not necessarily, and people are like, "Oh, that's what the genre was like." And it's like it was like that because not because they wanted to do that, it's because they didn't have the ability to be able to have complex systems that can go, "Are you lost? Here's how to fix that." Games nowadays have so many ways to help players if they do get lost to get unlost.
I don't necessarily agree with that. I think that some of that for older games to do that was to keep you on that game for longer, so that it wasn't such a throwaway purchase.
Oh, sure, I guess. Yeah, that makes sense.
You know,
but now they know, like, people are that's not a thing that they worry about anymore, like, necessarily.
Well, no, and because it's so easy to just jump on the internet and just look up shit.
Exactly.
Even if you do those types of things, it doesn't really prevent people from moving forward. But
yeah, so that's why it got a big markdown for me, because I had to look up how to do it, and it was not for something that I was stupid for. It was the game did not clearly tell me how to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look at old. Oh, look at us being all polite, waiting for the other person to talk. Just very, very quickly, like look at all old school, even something as like Batman Returns, the old side-scrolling beat 'em up for the Super Nintendo, where you had continues and you could get all the way to the Penguin, and if you lost all your continues and you died, like that's it, you're brown bread, you're done. And then we have checkpoints, and then the checkpoints got closer and closer together, and now people expect that. And the second that you die and it takes you all the way back here, it's like, F this game, And some games fight against that, like they don't necessarily view it as a quality of life thing because they think it takes away of part of the challenge and the exploration, and people beg to differ on that. Like I get it; it depends from genre and game and difficulty as well, right?
But again, what makes it special?
There are these.
Well, the thing that makes it special, and again, I compare this to RE2. I'm going to compare this game a lot to the RE2 remake, because it's taking a old trope in an old genre and updating it to modern time. And they do it so well because the other thing that Resident Evil 2 does, the remake, is it allows you the choice. Do you want checkpoints, or do you want the traditional style of save points with your ink ribbons and put them on typewriters like the traditional game does? Giving players choice, especially in this modern age when it's like, no, we're not doing that because that's how the games used to be. Well, it's like, wake up, people. It's 2021. So why don't you give us choice and say, for the people that love that, for the people that have never played one before and wants to play it the traditional style, you can even label it and saying, this is the traditional way, this is the recommended way to play, but give the player choice. That's the issue for me.
This is true gamers. This is true gamers mode. This is Babby's mode.
Even if I want true gamer mode, I don't know that I necessarily have the fucking time these days to deal with that shit. You know what I mean?
It's not like playing a video game is the only thing we can do on a Saturday night nowadays.
I might pick baby mode just to get through it.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the game for me personally, but I don't think every game has to have some sort of option mode where you can flip every single switch the game has to offer. I don't think devs have to go that far with it.
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, offer
for better or for worse.
I'm just saying,
if they have a vision.
Oh, go ahead.
Mitch, I totally get what you're saying, and I think that RE2 remake did a lot of things right, and I'm glad that game sold well, and it is as great as everyone says it is. They did a really good job with all that stuff. A lot of this stuff, for better or for worse, I just agree. Not always, but if the devs have a vision and like, no, this is the game we want to make, and these are the options that we give it, I'm totally hypocritical, because if I can't fucking map my movement to the D-pad for accessibility options, you're out of your fucking mind.
On a side scroller.
point proven that like it really depends on the person. So maybe it's a good idea to offer some more kind of toggle options, but I don't know. I don't think it's necessarily black and white. It's kind of a gray area where I do get developers with visions that this is the game and we're not going to offer X, but that's not all of X is created equal, right? Like if there's more of it, like you said, like the checkpoint system, like no, you have to save the game. If you die, you're reverted back to your save. Versus no, we're going to checkpoint you a bit. It's going to make the game a bit easier. Like that's slightly different from changing the difficulty of the game, as an example. So I get where you're coming from.
And on that note,
No, you
Mitch,
can't.
I think we should call it.
You can't.
It's the end of the episode.
No, I can't play the music now. I'm not ready. But anyway, okay. I guess well, actually, let's do it. Let's put a score on it. Let's put a score on it, Evan. Score that baby beast, whatever, Dread. So if you're gonna put a score on it on the, he's fingered me. He said, "Oh hell no, we ain't scoring this shit."
All right.
On the
Her Majesty is going to the public bathhouse. So.
All right.
Have fun, Your Majesty.
I'm sure she will.
Meh. On the traditional, we're not doing the legit. Oh my god! Ow, that's gotta hurt. If people didn't know, he just snapped his Mario wrist thing from his Mario adventure from checking out Mario Japan. Oh yeah, show that thing off.
Check this out. It's fucking cool.
How much did you drop for that thing?
Mario.
What'd you drop for it? How much?
The equivalent of $40.
Oh shit.
That's
not bad. That's not bad.
Actually, okay. Here's a fun fact, a boring fact that no one cares to know is, so I do an English conversation Zoom lesson with someone who works at Nintendo, and I said I went to the USJ Super Nintendo World. What do you think I bought? And he's like, the Toko Mario? I was like, oh shit, you got it. How did you know that? And he's like, I don't know. This is the only item in USJ Super Nintendo that Nintendo actually made themselves. Everything else is licensed out to USJ. So like all like the notepads and the pens and the keychains and all that bullshit. USJ made all that stuff. This is the only thing that Nintendo made. So I likened myself to Indiana Jones in The Last Crusade, where he's got to choose which cup is the cup that Jesus drank out of, and I fucking guessed right, and I got the only one, the true Nintendo product. Look at, oh man, oh what's going on in here?
Yeah, what the heck did you do?
Sorry, Mario. Okay, I don't know. I think I broke him. All right. Anyways,
so on the
9, I'm smoking crack. 9 out of 10. I love it. I think it's great.
Damn, I'm shocked by how much you not liking the map and all the complaints you've had.
You need to. All right, Mitch, 7.9. That's the score you need to give it.
I was between.
Oh, we're doing tenths.
So technically, when I was telling my friend, I was almost done with the game, and I said it's between a 7.5 and an 8, and it'll depend on the final boss, or like final section of how it goes. And I think I'm gonna give it a solid 8. It's a good game. It's not a great game. It's just a good game.
Okay.
Evan's on crack. All the other people are on crack if they're giving this 9 or above, because the controls alone should not. If you're struggling with controls, that's a fundamental issue.
Yeah, I just can't remember what game it was, but Damiani from Game Trailers and Easy Allies gave a game a 7.9, and the internet collectively lost their shit. So I was like,
"Hey,
Mitch, you should give it a 7.9."
Well, I give them props for one review they did, which was Breath of the Wild, and they did not give it a perfect score. I think they gave it a 9.5 because of its frame rate issues.
Yeah.
And
I think that was also Damiani. So
and I was like, that's mad respect.
He's a massive Nintendo fan, but he can kind of put things into perspective.
Whereas Ben Moore just goes right into it and goes, I love this game.
To me, I think this is a win, because we're coming from someone who's loves the genre, has played all the Metroid games, giving it a 9. But someone who's new to the genre, even with all the nitpicks, the nitpicks and lots of legitimate criticisms, still giving it an 8. I think that's a win.
No, I think that's true.
Maybe.
And like in the end, I would like to play another one in the franchise. Like I would,
Right.
I'm still curious to play a new game, another new Metroid game. Like I'm down for that.
Here are the 3 games that I would recommend: Super Metroid, Castlevania Symphony of the Night, and fucking Bloodstained Ritual of the Night. Those are the 3 that you should play.
Bloodstained.
Bloodstained was fucking amazing,
think about this,
dude.
Think about this, Burkoff. A more modern Metroidvania with some stuff, some like the map is much better. There's a bit more going on with RPG elements and leveling up. Mitch, if you liked Metroid Dread, I really think you actually might.
I think
really
you would
like
love Bloodstained. Yeah.
Yeah, you might really get into that game.
I might give it a go. We'll see. My roommate who moved back into our apartments, and now there's 3 of us total, he brought his PlayStation 5. So I have some PlayStation 5 games that I need to play.
Oh, so you're going to be playing...
some Ratchet, some Demon Soul. I mean, Demon Souls, yeah.
Yeah, Demon Souls remake, yeah.
So he doesn't have any of those, so I actually have to buy them. But I was going to buy myself a PS5 eventually anyway, so I'm fine with playing them on his console for now. And he's basically saying, you can play it whenever you want. Basically, he's like, play it. Like, okay. So it's on my list. So I gotta do that stuff first. But anyways, I'm excited to play another game in the franchise. So I mean, it doesn't. This is not spoiler. Samus doesn't die, so like there can be another game. This is like not
Metroid 6.
Yeah, there could be a Metroid 6, and I'd be more than happy to play it. I think if they work on the stuff that they worked on, this is a good foundation for not getting a Metroid for 12 years. We haven't had one in that long, so the fact that they were able to get this one out,
I think,
and it's decent, I'm good. Like it's a good game. I'm fine with that. Like now, the next one, I have much higher expectations for. Like fix the stuff that you could not do the first time. So thank you for listening to us. For our long stream, we are Pixel Pints. You can find us here streaming every single weekend on twitch.tv/pixelpints. And if you want to know when we are streaming every single week, you can find us on Twitter. Follow us, and we will be tweeting every single time we go live, which is at pixel_pints. Or you can follow us on Instagram at pixelpintspod. If you want to listen to us, so if you have caught us late and you didn't catch us while we're streaming, that's a-okay. We archive it all on twitch.tv/pixelpints. We're on YouTube at where you look up Pixel Pints, or any podcast service anywhere. I did not say streaming service. Good job, Mitch. Did a good job. It's 1 o'clock in the morning, almost 2 a.m. And I did a great job with that. But anyway, just look for us, Pixel Pints. There is a green mug. A green pitcher with some foam coming out, and it's pixelated. Click on that one, and you can listen to all our backlog. We have a lot of episodes: E3, PlayStation, Xbox, everything. We talk about everything.
Yep.
So, thank you, Burkoff. Thank you, Evan. Do you want to say it?
And we're out.
Well, you forgot to say on that note.
Oh,
we're out.
right.
Wow. Way to go.
On that note.
You screwed it up. It's gone. It's gone. You can't take it back.
So we had
white mug with a green background.
We had somebody in the chat, Teenage Coffee, said, out of the whole group here, who would drink the most beer at St. Patrick's Day? I think it'd probably be a pretty tough contest between Evan and myself.
I would not win.
Yeah, that's the thing, man.